Hi, readers. Welcome to Goddess Garden Book Chat. This is a great time to join us if you're new to the channel, and welcome back if you're a subscriber. I'm so glad that you're here. This is a book club for adults who love a good read, regardless of the genre, the weirdness, the planet it takes us to, or the openness we find on the pages. And so please be comfortable. Please be welcome. Please be aware. Topics discussed in this club include everything from basement dungeons to other worlds. I'll read them all and I'm going to share my thoughts in this safe space. And whether it's daytime or nighttime, no matter where you are, I'm happy you're a part of the conversation. You're always welcome. And I invite you to join me on my social pages, which are linked below. And I have created a design to give you an idea of what we're going to be talking about. But know that there's something out there for everyone. This is what I chose for our club today. It means so much to me to even be talking about this book. The impact of this individual and the impact of his music on my personal journey was profound. And his loss is significant to me when it comes to music and his impact. And I'm glad to see traces of it still exist. But before I go off on a side note of my love of all things Michael Joseph Jackson, we're going to do the book review of Before You Judge Me: The Triumph and Tragedy of Michael Jackson's Last Days. The book was written by David Ritz and Tavis Smiley. It's roughly 288 pages if you want to read the book, and it was published in June of 2016. Of course, I have the audio book, and because I totally respect Tavis Smiley as an interviewer and an author, and his lending his hand to this, I had to buy it. So I do own this book, and I'm very proud to own this book. So let's get into it. Before You Judge Me is by these two authors, and it's a poignant, emotionally charged exploration of the final 16 weeks of Michael Jackson's life. The tense, fragile, and isolated world that Michael Jackson inhabited in his last days, and the layers of the man who's not only iconic and a global superstar, but he was also deeply troubled and very, very vulnerable. So let's talk a little about the atmosphere around him. Um, the authors effectively capture what was surrounding Michael in the months leading up to June 25th, 2009. The pressure, the financial and physical and psychological pressure he was under at the time. And keep in mind, he was preparing for his highly anticipated comeback tour, This Is It. And this was supposed to bring him back to the pinnacle of stardom. So the atmosphere around him leading up to his death was so highly pressurized, and we're going to share a little more about that. But I want you to keep in mind that at his level of celebrity, even having to create a comeback tour was such a powerful statement for the journey that he had led. And this was at the pinnacle of his stardom. And they described the weight of this comeback and his fragile health and his fragile psyche. His empire was crumbling. He was in staggering debt. And the tour was supposed to be his salvation. But the tour demands were exhausting and it pushed his body to the limits. The rehearsals were draining, and he was one that was really strict on perfection. He would never compromise on what he was going to give his fans. And so the strain of living up to both the tour and his own impossible standards and the expectation of his fans took a toll. And I want you to think about just how in those last few months, him really pushing himself, knowing that he was physically not there. And there's no way that he didn't know that he was really pushing himself to the limit. But he was compelled. Um, and the compelling aspects of the book and how it captures Jackson's profound sense of isolation are very telling. Despite surrounding himself with people who worked for him and with him, he was trapped in his fame and he was haunted by his past. His relationships were strained, and there was a pervasive sense of distrust. He often conflicted and he was often conflicted. I'm sorry, let me restate that. He was often conflicted and he relied heavily on the counsel of those around him because his circle was important to him. And so he relied on them. And whether they had his best interests at heart remains a question throughout his life and after. The book does delve deeply into his insecurities. He was obsessed with his appearance, worried about his vocal abilities, and anxious about his ability to execute the demanding choreography that he set up for the This Is It tour. And despite his status as the king of pop, Michael Jackson's self doubt and it really just pressed on him. And it was a tragic paradox for someone who had achieved unparalleled success in the music world. I mean, this guy was literally a standalone, and he was plagued with doubt. And then there's the dependency issues. Jackson was dependent on prescription drugs, and the book carefully charts his increasing reliance on medication to manage his chronic insomnia, the pain, the physical pain he was in, and his anxiety. Picture a man caught in a cycle of dependency, struggling to find peace amid his sleepless nights and physical deterioration, and you will find a heartbreaking story. You'll find his story. Add in the pressure from the concert promoters, financial backers, and even Jackson's inner circle, which intensified and added to the atmosphere of mounting stress and fragility, and the disaster was on the horizon. If you were close to him and you didn't see this coming, I'm utterly shocked. Before You Judge Me does not shy away from celebrating his triumphs. The book does an excellent job of reflecting on his unprecedented career, his groundbreaking achievements in music and dance, and his enduring influence on pop culture. Even in his final days, Jackson's genius and vision remained undeniable. Unfortunately, the tragedy lies in how his extraordinary talent was ultimately overshadowed by the weight of his personal struggles. It, it, I still feel that loss of a major pivotal celebrity in my musical journey. When I found out, it was so heartbreaking. But in conclusion, let's wrap this up, and I hope that you'll give this book a look because it's a thoughtful reflection on his triumphs and his tragedies that marked his journey. For fans like me, this was a book that provided a nuanced and respectful perspective of his final chapter. It invites everyone, and even those who have their own opinions about how this went down, to see beyond the headlines and remember the man behind the music. Um, the emotions that I felt then, I feel now. I think this is a great story in the sense of closure, being a fan looking from the outside in and knowing what has been reported, but not really knowing it from a personal level, just from a fan level. I really thought that this was a great opportunity to get a little closer to what happened to him and what it was like for him. And so, for that reason, this was an ovation, 5-star read. I hope that this is that for you. There are so many books out there about his story, but again, I found it in the trusting hands of someone that I respect. So, this is the journey that I took our club on, and I hope you take this journey as well. So, in closing, let's leave with a focus on what books are out there and return with a great read. So, we're going to close this chapter with a bookmark, and until we meet again, book club, thank you so much for joining me and have a great, great week.